YouTube, what is good? It's your boy Q from Next Level Reefing, and I'm back with another video. First and foremost, I'd like to say thank you for all the love and support. I sure do appreciate it. And with that being said, make sure you hit that subscribe button and smash the notification bell so you can be notified of every video that I drop, which is every single Friday. Alright, so let's dive into it. Now, I know I said in last week's episode that I was going to do an unboxing this week, but I started looking at my sump and I was like, man, this thing is filthy. So why not do a video about how I clean my sump? So it's actually a few reasons why I wanted to clean the sump. The main reason why is just because that thing just looks straight disgusting. Because of that refugium light that I had down there was algae growing everywhere. And since I don't have anything like Chaeto or a skimmer that's in the refugium at the time being, I'm just gonna keep the light off for right now. And the second reason why I wanted to clean the refugium is because it's 4 more days until I could put fish back into the tank. So I wanted to go ahead and do the heavy maintenance out the way before I started putting the fish back into the tank. Now in this clip right here, it might not show how dirty this sump is, but just wait until I take the refugium divider out. You'll see. So before I get to cleaning the sump, I noticed that the auto top off chamber was a little empty, so I went on ahead and tried to top that off before starting. And I might do another video on how I top off my ATO chamber, because it's a whole thing within itself and it probably does deserve its own video. So the main thing that I have is towels. So I always make sure I have a few towels, especially lay some down on the wood floor to not only sit things on the towel, but also make sure that it catches all the water that comes from the stuff that comes out of the sump. So the next thing that I have is a 5-gallon bucket to put all of the stuff in, like the power heads, the return pump, you know, those type of things. Now what I use to clean the power heads and stuff like that, I put citric acid into the 5-gallon bucket and I turn the power head on and let it cycle through, and I keep it in for at least 2 to 3 hours at the most. Now I used to use vinegar to clean the product for the tank, and that just goes to show how long I've been in this hobby, and that was the old school way to clean your product. And everybody knows that if you've been in the hobby as long as I have, when you use vinegar, after a while it starts deteriorating your pumps, especially your power heads. Not only that, but it starts showing either rust, or when I used to have my 90-gallon, I saw like brown markings, and it could have been rust, but it was by the edges of the silicone within the inside of the tank. So, and if you guys know me and you've been following along through my journey, you know my motto is taking my time and doing my research. So before I get into that, just look at that, just algae everywhere. I told y'all, but it gets worse. My bad, y'all. I just had to go over the filth and disgust of the algae that I was warning you guys about. So anyways, due diligence and research, and through doing that, I came across citric acid, Matter of fact, I think after watching one of Tidal Garden's videos, he had mentioned citric acid and the same thing that I was going through as far as rust and deterioration of your pumps and things like that. And this is actually my third or fourth time using this method, and I can honestly say that it is completely night and day. I mean, it cuts the cleaning time almost completely in half. You don't have to scrub as hard as far as I use a toothbrush like to get into like the crevices and the details of the products that I'm using. And before, when I was using vinegar, I would have to still scrub even though I soak it for like hours on end. Let alone, you don't have to sit there and smell like vinegar after you get done. Now, don't get me wrong, the citric acid does have a smell to it, but it's not as potent as vinegar, and it seems to go away as soon as you rinse all your stuff within either use distilled water, or I just use tap water, and it just goes away right after that. Now, I actually ended up taking that refugium divider outside to clean it because it was just so much algae just caked up on that thing. I was not going to be yelled at the wife of putting it in a tub or in a sink or anything like that, so I actually took it outside and then just scraped it off out there. And as you see, I'm trying to scrape off the algae that's on the glass. And then there's another thing that I noticed too, and I was talking to my LFS to figure out what this actually was, but there was like white crusted little dots that was stuck up on the glass, and didn't know what that was. When I asked them, they said it was snail eggs. Very interesting. They also said it doesn't cause harm to your tank. If anything, it's food for the invertebrates and the fish that's in your tank. Now, the more I started scraping the glass, the more I started realizing like, yo, this is a bad idea. But I was already knee deep and couldn't stop. I had to go ahead and see this thing through. Now, the other things that I use to help clean this sump is, now you can see it's the electrical wet vac, or electrical gravel vac is what they call it. It wasn't going so well. As you can see here, I had to take it apart because the algae kept getting stuck within the propeller of the gravel vac. So I had to keep taking it apart like every 2 to 3 minutes or so. Now, this method right here was a whole nother thing. Usually this thing works wonders because it has like a little bag that, as you can see, that has like a little thing that's attached to the side, so anything it catches, it'll just catch in the bag. But because it was so much algae and it was getting stuck, and every time I turn it off, like, it would come back out, then the algae particles that was swimming in between the waters when I was trying to suck through the gravel vac, it was just getting all in the way, so I couldn't see. It was a whole thing. So then I added the water changer hose into the mix, and my thought process was I can use that hose, grab another bucket, grab a filter sock, put the hose within the filter sock, and then just suck some of the water out to get some of that algae debris and filter it through the sock and let the sock catch it, and then put the water and let it drip into the bucket. And I had 3 to 4 extra buckets on the side. So I was like, well, let me just go ahead and do that and see if that'll help it out. And it actually worked. I used the 3 buckets, and I used that in conjunction with the electric vac. So when it was sucking out into the buckets, I would use the electric vac to suck out the remaining big particles of the algae that was in the sump. So at this point, the stuff in the bucket has been sitting probably like an hour or an hour and a half at the most. And I just wanted to see if the algae and all the stuff that was stuck onto the product was able to come off, and that stuff came off with a breeze. I mean, I didn't have to do any type of hard scrubbing. I just grazed it with the toothbrush, and it just fell right off into the bucket. Wardrobe change. Man, I had to get out of that stuff I was wearing in the previous video. It was just algae and water everywhere. So at this point, all the products are clean, nice and shiny, back to where they looked like when I originally got them. And now I'm just putting everything back in its place. All the algae is gone. I mean, the sump looks great way better than it did when I first started. I didn't think it was gonna look this clean. So before I put the filter roller back in, I put a filter sock. Actually, I put 3 extra filter socks in to catch all the debris and the algae that was running around in the tank, and I let that sit in for about 1.5 hours before doing so. So then I just used a flipper algae scrubber or scraper to clean the outer parts of the glass, and then I just used the rag to kind of like top it off and clean the edges and things like that. And here's the finished product, folks. I mean, it was a long journey to get it to where it looks now, but I can say that it came out great. After finishing this, I would say this is like a heavy duty overhaul sump cleaning, and I would probably do this like every 6 months, just depends. This particular situation, because of that light and there was nothing in the refugium, it was like a major cleaning overhaul. And because I'm not using a skimmer for the time being, it needed a little bit more elbow grease to get that stuff out of there. All right, and there you have it, folks. Now, before I head out, I just wanted to say that as of last week, the channel hit 50 subscribers. And I think this week it's at 60 subscribers. So I just wanted to say, as always, I really appreciate y'all. I appreciate the feedback and the comments you guys are giving me. That's what I need. That's what thrives. That's what keeps me going. And those of you know that's in the hobby alone is tough and challenging. Fun, but tough and challenging. So adding on doing the videos is even more. So I appreciate all the love and support. So with that being said, as always, thank y'all. I appreciate y'all, and I'll see you on the next one.